Micah here. I am going to do a video today about how you can use Western medicine to give you a direction on how to use complementary medicine. So I'm going to do this for a couple of reasons and preface this by saying I am sharing my experience only. I am not doing any recommendations. I don't have any paid sponsorships, uh, and I'm not a medical professional. But I am going to talk to you about things that have helped me and how I found out how to do that so that you can hopefully have some skills and tools and some idea of how in your life you can use Western medicine, information you get from your doctor to kind of help your healing process in your physical body, and which subsequently would help your emotional and spiritual bodies too, correct? Yes, and mind. So, I also am passionate about either or versus and mentality. Because when you always insist on or things, it limits you. And people get really rigid about certain things, almost in this weird dogmatic, self-righteous way, which frustrates me a little bit because there are different perspectives to things like veganism. I didn't realize that in some native cultures they view veganism as colonialism because privilege allows you to be vegan, whereas native cultures don't really have that ability as easily. There's a lot of interesting perspectives out there, so I'm not going to. I'm going to share my experience, and I'm not going to tell you, I am going to tell you that my way is likely not the best way for you until you communicate with a doctor or medical professional. Okay? Okay. So if this does not interest you, this and cooperative mentality where things can work together for your greatest good and ultimately other people's greater good. Think about the memes where they say F this, like being sexy. I would rather be ugly hag bog witch or something. I see these little memes and I'm like, why can't you be both? Every time I have to comment, I'm like, I can be both. Or one day I can be one and one day I can be another. Why do you have to condemn one thing for another thing? You don't. And yeah, it sucks sometimes when you feel really sexy and some man or somebody uses that against you as a way to manipulate you or hit on you in an inappropriate way or make you uncomfortable. But that shouldn't take your desire to feel sexy and beautiful away. They don't deserve to take that from you. You should keep that. That's your power. That's part of who you are. And if you're feeling that, own it. And if you're not feeling that, own that too. So that's my soapbox on that topic. I'm going to get into how this applied to me, and hopefully maybe something I offer will help give you some direction, because I never had a blueprint for any of the things I've had to deal with in my life. Healing traumas. A lot of my issues, they think I got fibromyalgia, was probably as far back as childhood when I had a accident that caused developmental PTSD and somewhat stunted, we'll say, my nervous system's development. So I had a difficult time navigating physical illness. It's made me sensitive my whole life, and my organs are sensitive. I almost died giving birth to my son because my heart almost gave out. So all my organs, when I get overly stressed, it affects my different organs in different ways. And there's a spiritual reference, metaphysical meaning to that also. And you can always connect that, like if certain organs are showing up or certain emotions showing up, you can look up the organ it's related to. Sometimes affirmations may help. Sometimes affirmations are triggering. You just need to know what's best for you. So for me, because I have a Western medical background, but I also have a background in herbal medicine. I grew up with herbal medicine. My mom grew her own plants and herbs and taught us how to use them, and then I studied them in college along with somatics and bodywork and trauma. So I'm familiar with a lot of things in the medical profession, even though I'm not a medical professional per se, and I'm not going to give advice, and I'm not doing any paid sponsorships at all. But I think it's important to share my personal experience and be vulnerable in that aspect because other people are dealing with this, and our healthcare system does not support being able to see a naturopath all the time, and I wish my insurance covered it, but it doesn't. So I had to figure this out for myself. And if you can see a naturopath, that's my favorite because they can integrate both. There's a lot of doctors out there open to herbal medicine and also educated in it, and you can always ask before seeing one so that you can talk to them if you've been trying different herbs and stuff and see, because some of them can be harmful. Some of them can be contraintuitive to something else you may have going on. And it's like throwing darts at a dartboard. And I was so tired of this. So I will say that in December of 2019, you can see, there's no need to go into detail, but all of my basic general panel, blood panel, was normal. It'd be highlighted in bold if anything stood out as too high or too low. So, hooray for me. Cholesterol and everything was fine. My triglycerides skyrocket when I drink too much. Too much for me is having at least one drink every night or every other night. I have gotten to the point where I can barely drink at all ever, which is sad. But that's another story for another day. So COVID hit, right? And I don't manage stress well. I was doing really well before COVID because at a previous job I had, I was getting regular body work, which really helps my nervous system really manage stress well. But I don't manage, my body doesn't navigate stress very well. And when my body doesn't feel good and I don't feel good, then I don't get good sleep. And if I don't get good sleep, I am a monster and I can barely function. And it feels as though my organs are shutting down. And I felt as though my digestive system became paralyzed. I was nauseous. I couldn't eat anything. I ended up going vegan for a while because I had to purge my body and I couldn't process any meat or beans or anything that was dense, protein dense. So I'm prefacing that for a reason here. I would occasionally have little bits of meat because I could feel that my body needed it, but it was so excruciating to try to digest. And then I would try to, and I was in so much pain, I would have maybe a drink before bed to try to, for it to help me sleep. And then I couldn't wake up in the morning, so then I would have coffee, which would destroy my digestive system so much so because of the acid that I have to now have an apple cider vinegar tablet with every meal. Those are lifesavers. You shouldn't drink apple cider vinegar. It actually can completely destroy your esophagus. It shreds the mucus and everything. But if you, the lining, people drink it and it's not good for you. But you can get them in tablets and then they go into your stomach and they help your body digest everything a little bit better. So if you have digestive issues, these were a lifesaver for me. I mean, they're not going to hurt you if you try just one or two. I only need one a meal. It says to take 1 to 3 times a day with meals, but I really only need one a meal. And I started doing that, and that helped a lot. But all the issues with my digestion were excruciating. And I was also getting to where one day I would feel really great, and the next day I would feel terrible, and it would go back and forth. So I went to see the doctor, and they checked me for COVID because of my symptoms, and I didn't have that. So that was eliminated first. And then after that was eliminated, they did a blood panel where they found that I had high RH factors, which is how I was referred to the rheumatologist who diagnosed me with fibromyalgia. No rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, thank goodness, because I was really worried about that because my symptoms were similar to those. But you can see, and I'll only show you this part because it's really the only part I'm going to reference right now, and that is my sodium level was at 122, which is very low. The doctors I work with and the medical professionals said that like neurologists and everything will hospitalize somebody with sodium levels that low because you're at risk for seizures in your brain and stroke inevitably. There were a lot of other things low, obviously, chloride, my protein, calcium, all kinds of things that were low. So what do I do about this? I tried to get my digestion under control. Ginger, whenever my stomach hurt, ginger saved my life. And probiotic bifidus, that specific one was recommended to my mother by her doctor, because her doctor had told her that most probiotics are kind of useless and you don't need them all, and sometimes they can even do more harm than good if you're not taking the right ones. So you need to talk to a doctor about the specific one you need. So with her and I both having fibromyalgia for different reasons, I would take probiotics, the bifidus, the refrigerated one, and that one helps. And I don't need it all the time. I just take it once in a while. And I also asked some friends who had studied herbalism, who were in the medical profession, on how I could get my sodium levels up, because I knew it was electrolytes. I also knew I was compulsively drinking a lot of water because of anxiety, so I slowed that way down. And then I got these electrolytes, positive ion electrolytes. I got these specifically because they don't have a lot of potassium in them. I already had normal potassium levels during this whole thing, and with my heart history, I did not need more potassium. It's actually kind of dangerous to have too much potassium when you have any kind of heart concern. So you'd want to check your potassium levels before assuming cramping and stuff like that, because sometimes you can get cramping from something going on with your kidneys. It's not related to potassium at all, and then you're taking potassium, which can cause problems with the heart. So it's a whole thing. So you have to be careful about that. So these have helped me a lot. I like these. I don't need them all the time, but when I feel a little like I'm sluggish and I kind of get that weird feeling, that brain fog that I was having when my sodium levels were low, I put this one dropper in my water. You can do it 2 times a day if you need to. I've only needed to do it once or twice sometimes. And then I got a raw food calcium to add to my diet. I was able to start integrating meat slowly. I can take small portions and I can digest them now because of all the work I had to do. But some of the work I had to do caused more problems. Like I had a smooth move tea to kind of help move things along because it felt like everything was paralyzed and stuck and it was agonizing. But in that process, I lost a lot of nutrients and I felt horrible. Oh my gosh, it was awful. So these are the things that help bring me back. And I had to start taking this one a morning every day. This glutamine helps with your muscles and helps your muscles function more appropriately, which would go to all of your organs that are muscles, right? And it helps support immune function. And this has been a lifesaver. I just take one a morning before I eat or anything. And that was like the first step. That's the first thing I did, that and the apple cider vinegar tablets. And oh my gosh, life changing. And then, because I was taking magnesium regularly, and my mom's doctor had told her that magnesium chloride specifically removes plaque from the body, and it has to be the chloride kind, and it might take a little time, but it will remove plaque in your vascular system. It helps the nervous system. It helps with cellular memory and muscle function. It helps promote better sleep. So you would take magnesium in the evening, and then you can take the calcium with breakfast and or lunch. And and this vitamin C was told to me by another doctor. So the doctor who does the vitamin C IVs came up with this, and this helps the blend specifically helps your body better absorb the vitamin C. So you can take all these pills and they're just, when you don't get certain kinds of vitamins, they're just going into your toilet, straight into your toilet. They're pointless. And yes, you should pay attention to these nutrients and eat accordingly, but I needed additional help. And knowing what I was low in helped me narrow down the kinds of foods I needed to have more of in my diet. But even doing that, as you can see, my blood levels were still low and I still needed to supplement because my body, especially with my digestion being bad, was not absorbing nutrients the way it needed to. So another one of my former instructors who had studied, some herbalism and aromatherapy and stuff recommended this type of fish oil. Um, doesn't give you fish burps, which I was really happy about because that's one of the reasons I don't take fish oil because I don't want to taste it. You don't taste anything. It doesn't, nothing. And I can feel my brain fog going away, and I can feel like my nutrients are being absorbed. And I also don't feel like overeating. I was overeating. That was another thing I was doing. I was piling food in me, and I felt like part of it was emotional, like, self-soothing. But I honestly think now that I look at my blood work, that a lot of it was physical. Like we shame ourselves and think sometimes we self-diagnose ourselves. And now that I look at my blood work, I'm like, maybe I don't have an eating disorder. Or I feel like I'm pulling out of that lack mentality that I kind of grew up with. And because I grew up in poverty and my financial situation isn't the best, but it's also not as bad as it has been for years since 2010. That's when it really tanked for me. And I'm not where I was before it tanked, but I'm better. Um, but I feel like looking at my blood work, my body was crying out for these nutrients and didn't know how to get them. So I would overeat. I would put all these different types of foods in me because I have to eat small bits at a time because my digestion needs time. I don't need a lot of food, especially if I'm not being active. But I was putting all these foods in because I needed certain nutrients and my body wasn't knowing how to absorb them. So adding these supplements to the foods I was eating and getting my digestion on track made my blood normal again, and that's my grand finale. So nothing is out of range anymore. My sodium is up to 140. Hooray! There's nothing in bold, and I'm very happy that all of this is working. Now, if I was taking too much of anything, because people will say, I don't understand why people take zinc or people take this or that when you get it in your food and we have enough. And it's like, not everybody has enough though. Not everybody can absorb certain nutrients. And some of us, our diets are all a little different. Our dietary needs, our dietary desires all vary, and that affects our blood. We all have different blood types. We all have different genetic codes, different DNA in our background history. And all of that plays a factor to all of this. So this is a good way to educate yourself on your own physical body. And it's not as expensive as like having your DNA checked through one of those companies that can actually tell you exactly which foods you can eat. With me, I had to eliminate gluten. If I have any caffeine, it's usually a little bit of tea and only one a day. I can't really drink any coffee at all anymore, which makes me sad. And elimination diet is always the first thing any doctor is going to tell you. Before you see a doctor, try elimination diet. There are apps where you can track food and what you eat. You can even track like supplements you're taking. So if you eliminate all supplements and just start from scratch and just do one thing a day just to see how you feel. I buy individual things because I'm really sensitive to so many things. And when you buy a blend, there are so many other ingredients in your ingredient list. You've got to read your ingredient list. And you have on anything, on food, supplements, anything. Because sometimes I'll see this really great supplement, and then I'll see like brown rice flour or something is in it, and I can't have rice. And I'll be like, son of a. And I have thrown away so many supplements because I didn't read the ingredient list. So know what you're putting in your body. Look at every little ingredient and track it if you're having any kind of health or digestive issues and you feel like it's related to what you are or are not consuming. And remember that all of this can work together, especially if you are find a doctor that is open to it and you can discuss this stuff with them. It's important that you have a doctor that supports that if that's what you're interested in. Nutritionists can help also, especially if you have your blood work and they know how to read the important parts in there. As well as naturopathic doctors are probably the best doctors to see for anything if you want to integrate both Western and herbalistic medicines, complementary medicine. So I hope that this was helpful in any way to you. It made me feel a lot better to be able to have at least some kind of a map or roadway of what to start narrowing down and understand that, you know, if my potassium is normal, I shouldn't be taking extra potassium. And now I understand it's because of my heart. And that's why I don't feel good if I take potassium supplements. Listen to your body, trust it, but then also get it checked, because you can also harm your body if you just randomly start taking things and you haven't discussed this with your doctor, or you haven't been educated on the contraindications, because almost everything has a contraindication that you're going to put in your body, even if it's healthy and from the earth. Because the earth does provide poison also. So it's it can be a catch-22 sometimes. So blessings. I'm sorry this is long, but I wanted to be as helpful as possible. And I'm happy that I'm feeling better. And I hope that maybe this helps you figure out a way that you can feel better in a more affordable way. Because healthcare is, navigating this healthcare system makes it a little difficult. So, blessings. Thank you for watching.